welcome to the greenhouse. I'm Rachel O'Leary, and today we are finally getting to work on all of the things that have to happen in the next few weeks in order to get this fully operational. Now, you may have noticed that I drained and removed all the tubs, and that's so that I can easily run this PVC loop in order to have air, and so that I can move all the stuff that's on the other side of the greenhouse out of the way so that we can put the shelving up there. So that's what we're going to be working on this weekend. I also have all my pond plants except for my lilies outside. It's pouring down rain today, and it's a great opportunity to let them really get saturated, clean off any dust, debris, or whatever, and just really get them out of the way for us to get some work done in here. So let's get started. So this is the pump I've decided to use for running the air out here in the greenhouse, and I decided to put it in this back corner on top of the bench simply because if it's not powerful enough, my good friend Pat gave me another one that I can use that's way bigger, but I think that this is going to work for this application. My husband took his hole saw and just drilled a hole through the benching. We're running the tube down to here. We'll connect it to PVC, hang it on these hangers just underneath the top of the bench, and then I can run air line. Then I can run air line from each valve that we'll place, and I'll show you guys this entire process, but right now we're just putting the hangers that'll hold the PVC nice and secure for my loop. So now we're just measuring PVC to fit underneath the bins. Ow. Now we're just measuring PVC to fit underneath the shelving in order to run the airline and the valves. And because you guys were so adamant about it, I went and bought the PVC cutter that you said was so much better. We'll see if you're right or not. You were right. Thank you. Just never wanted to spend the 40 bucks on it, but now Chris has a great new tool for his arsenal, and I have a tax write-off. So we've run the PVC underneath here with couplings and the hangers. I shouldn't say we, I should say my husband did this. It's very difficult for me to crouch or kneel. So the next step is to take it down and drill the holes and put in the valves, which are these little dudes here, which I really like. And then we'll run airline to the tubs. Now each of the tubs came pre-drilled with this hole here that I'm just going to run the airline through. And then I have a whole passel of sponge filters that I'll run in there, mainly because the greenhouse is going to get so warm this summer. I want to make sure that there's really good aeration. Generally speaking, for all these tubs, you wouldn't necessarily need to filter them, but I'm concerned about daytime highs. So I'm going to make sure that I have more than enough oxygen content within the bins for the fish that I plan to keep out here. And as you guys can see as well, it's actually pouring outside, but I have all my pond plants just sitting in the yard to get a nice good drink of this fresh spring rain. Great. So Chris, again my hero, has climbed underneath the bench here and marked the PVC at each spot that the upper tubs will need a valve. And what he's going to do is drill basically a 3/16 pilot hole. And then you can either thread in the valves manually, or you can put them into the drill itself, being very, very careful not to over tighten it, and use the drill to do the work for you. And then after these are placed, it's almost easier to screw them in by hand. That's how I did it in the fish room. After these are placed, then we will drill ones on the opposite side as well for the bins that are on the bottom. And this will allow me to use the least amount of airline as possible and avoid that sort of spider webby sort of look of really long lengths of airline with a central loop. Right. I really like these valves in particular because they're very easy to install. And they're very reliable. The ones down in my fish room have been going for many, many years. And again, you just hook the air line to that and run it to the tub, and it's super easy, and that controls, that little lever there controls how much air goes to the bin, so you can set your bubble output. Now we're just going to run the valves for these bottom tubs, and one of the nice things about these tubs is that they come with 2 plugs for that hole that's drilled in the back, one of which is an actual plug and one of which has little holes in it so that you can combine them all to one filtration. So I'm gonna, on these bottom ones at least, I'm gonna put the plugs in because I don't need to run the air line through it. On the top ones, I may use the one with the holes and run the air line, like make the hole a little bit bigger and just run the air line through that so it holds it nice and still. Now I just attach the air line to the valve by pushing it on. Take a sponge filter, and these are oversized sponge filters for the large volume, but because these are long and low, I cut the lift tubes in half. So I'll just run enough air line to reach the sponge filter, as well as being able to pull it forward a bit for cleaning. Attach the air line to the sponge, which I always struggle with. I have no idea why. I bought the really soft silicone tubing, which, there we go. And then put the lift tube on so that it'll sit below the level of the water. This is the plug that I put in there. So I want the lift tube below that so that as it evaporates down, I'll still get the bubble output that I need. So now they're all run with sponge filters up to their valves. I don't have the pump plugged in yet, but I will shortly. I'm going to go ahead and fill the tubs back up. I'm leaving this one open because we're going to be installing a sink in the middle with a workbench on either side, and I'll leave that area open for storage, or I may put one of the round whiskey barrel style totes under there. I haven't quite decided as of yet. Up next we have all the lumber for the shelving on this side, which means I need to move all the crap I've piled on that side of the greenhouse out of the way to get started on that. Now again, I have a well, so I don't have to treat this water at all, and I'm filling the tubs up so that I can move my pond plants back in, as well as pot a lot of the stuff up here to add to these to get them really growing. It'll also help prevent any sort of cycle within the tubs when I move out fish, but these are 60-gallon tubs, and I'm going to be moving out very small groups of fish, so I don't anticipate any issues. Another thing that we have to do while we're out here is re-engage these automatic lifts. They are, essentially they heat up, and there's oil in them that presses a spring that makes the panels open as it gets hot in the greenhouse. So I've gone ahead and put in some of the pots from last year into each of the tubs. They're mainly various irises, as well as creeping jenny, some water mint, and things like that. I've also added some oxygenators like parrot's feather and anacris, which make great spawning mops for fish. And this stuff should multiply pretty quickly to fill the tubs. I'll also be picking up some water hyacinth to add to these, as long as it's available in time before my surgery. So I'll finish filling these 5 tubs, and then after this side is constructed, we'll move all this crap and I'll set the ones up top as well, and I'll be sure to bring you guys along for this entire process. Now, as you guys can see, the lilies are growing really well, poking leaves up out of the water all over the place. And the other thing that's really nice is that this particular tub already is well seeded with Daphnia, which just shows up when there's organic material present in water. So as I move these lilies from tub to tub, it'll seed each of the tubs with Daphnia, which make a fantastic food for the fish. Let me see if I can get a close-up for you guys on some of the Daphnia. I can see them swimming around in here. They're just little tiny water bugs. swimming all over the place. And again, it just makes really, really great live food for the fish. The next thing I'm going to do is take these plugs that are for the bins, and for the top row, just going to drill a hole through, slightly bigger than my airline, and then that way it'll hold the filter still and keep the airline from looking messy. So it's the next day, and we got a lot done yesterday. I got 5 of the tubs set up and plants in them, but I have a bunch more plants that I just ordered that I need to get potted. So I thought I would do a bit of a review for you guys on how I do that. And I've just gathered together a bunch of supplies in order to do so. I have some aquatic soil, some sand, my pots, some newspaper, and a bunch of plants. And what we're going to do today is just get these potted so that as the second set of shelving comes together and I'm able to set up more bins, I have the plants ready for it. Now, right now I'm adding a ton to each container, and that's because my other outdoor bins aren't set up yet. Hopefully I'll be able to get those running too, but for now the priority is the greenhouse. And you may notice that I'm in short sleeves today, and that's because it is substantially warmer outside today than it was yesterday, and it is over 80 degrees in the greenhouse, which is fantastic. It means the water temperature in the bins is about 60 degrees, and if we have a few days like this, that means I'll be able to move fish out by Tuesday, fingers crossed. So what I do to pot these plants is I take a piece of newsprint and I put it in the pot, and that's just so that the soil doesn't leak out the holes, but the water can get into the pot to be able to saturate the plants. Now, it doesn't really matter what kind of substrate you're using. I have this API pond media because someone gave it to me, so this will work just fine. And then I simply fill up the container about halfway full, and then pick the plants. Then I pick the plants that I'm going to put in it, and often I will do single species pots, but I think I'm going to mix some of these up. This is Society garlic, that's a taro. This I don't remember what it is. I think it's dwarf cattail. That I don't remember what it is. And then I have some water wisteria. So I'm going to plant the biggest ones first. So I just stand it up in the pot, and then I'm going to put some wisteria in with it, just for a little bit more coverage for fry. Then you take more soil and cap it off. So that the plants stay in the pot. And then I'll take something like, in previous years I've used pea gravel or just regular aquarium gravel, but today I'm going to use sand because I have, so again, someone gave me a bunch of it, and you just need something to cover the top of the soil so it doesn't float away. We'll do that, and one is done. Then you simply repeat it. And you know, the reason I like to generally do species only pots is because I do preserve my plants from year to year, and different plants have different overwintering requirements. So I like to try and keep them, you know, in groupings that will work for their strategy for overwintering. Now, a lot of these plants will get pretty large, so it's important to not overcrowd the pots as well. And I have a lot of different size pots. Some of the larger plants I'll put in the bigger pots. I also have more lilies coming in, so the lilies will need these bigger pots as well. And I'll go over that again too when the new plants come in. But this is super simple, super easy, and works like a charm. It's important when you're choosing your plants for your bins that you pay attention to their water depth requirements. Some of them do much better deeper, some of them do much better just at the surface. So you have to pay attention to that. And for the most part, the labels on the plants at the nursery or wherever you buy them do a pretty good job of telling you what to expect. But the last thing you want to do is spend a bunch of money on plants only to house them improperly and have them not do well for you. For the most part, I tend to choose plants that'll do well up to a foot of depth, and that way I can keep them in any of my tubs without killing them. I think this might be a sweet, like some sort of rush. I really just don't recall. Now I should also mention that any of these ones that do well deep water generally do well grown immersed as well. So if you're not ready to set up your bins or a pot yet, you can just float them in tubs or in water to maintain them in the meantime. I'm just going to go ahead and finish all this up and then I'll show you what I've got. So as you can see, the plants are all moved in. This is the one that I just potted that's in this bin. I have some parrot's feather and some anacharis in here. You can see the lily, even from yesterday, has gotten some substantial growth. I've also seeded all of these tubs. with Daphnia to prepare them for fish in the hopes that I can move them out within the week. But now that the plants are in soil and in a tub, they should grow pretty quickly, especially with how warm it is in the greenhouse. But I'm really, really pleased that all of my lilies are throwing out so many new leaves so quickly. Again, all the new pots are the ones with the white sand, and the old pots from last year have pea gravel on top. And then you can see this lily especially is going absolutely bonkers. These two, or actually 3 lilies, are doing awesome. And then I still have some more plants in here that are floating that I need to deal with, but they will be for when the rest of the tubs get set up on here after this side is constructed, hopefully today. Lord. My darling husband has cut all the lumber to assemble the second side of the shelving, so we're going to get started on that here shortly. And when I say we, I give him most of the credit. I've shown you guys this before, so I'm not going to go over it in detail, but we're just setting up the framework for the shelves on this side to match that side. And one of the things that Chris did is make where these uprights go match where the posts in the greenhouse are, so it'll look better from the outside world. And now the bench is complete. Up next, we'll be getting all this crap that's everywhere organized, setting up the rest of the bins that I have, and we hope to put a paver walk down the middle so that it's a little bit more stable of a surface for my knee, a little bit quieter for filming, and a little bit easier for me to sweep up and clean up in here. So this is where we stand at this very moment. This entire side of the greenhouse is done and planted and coming up to temperature. The bins right now are about 70 degrees, and that's just with one day in this sun. On the other side, I have the start to my carnivorous plants and all my materials. I hope to get more of these bins to do this whole side too, but I have to source them. And then we're gonna put pavers down the middle, and then I need to set up my bog gardens outside because the carnivorous plants will be living outside most of the time, so I have to figure that out. And then there's the bins over there, which may or may not get set up this year. We'll have to see how it goes. As always, thank you for your continued support. Let me know below if you have any comments, suggestions, or questions, or what fish you'd really like to see me work with out there. I cannot thank my husband enough for getting this project done for me on such short notice, as he's had very, very little time off. We still have to run power as well and finish up the water collection system, which you can see back there. But all in all, this is some incredible progress for 2 days, and I couldn't be happier. Make sure you stop by my Instagram, my Facebook, and my website, MsJinx.com, where you can find my upcoming speaking engagements, my current stock list, and information on all things nano.